and business. This one, Shireen Makanye says, Premier, I'm a young woman that has access to a farm in KwaZulu-Natal. What assistance is available for a starter farmer? That's the one question. Another one comes from Begi. Begi says, we have land and coal in Ladysmith and would like to explore more on it, but we do not have finance. Can Premier please advise? Those are the two questions. Peter?
Okay, we just missed the first one. Can you just repeat the first question again?
The first question is from Shireen Makanye, who says, I'm a young woman with access to a farm in KwaZulu-Natal. What assistance is available to a starter farmer? Shireen Makanye. And then the second one, just for the benefit, Peter, from Begi, who says, we have land and coal in Ladysmith. We'd like to explore more on it, but we do not have finance. Can Premier please advise? On it, but we do not have finance. Can Premier please advise?
All right. Well, thank you very much indeed. Okay, so I think similar questions. They have resources that are underdeveloped. How can you help starter farmers, for example, in the province? Because agriculture was one of your pointers earlier on.
Yeah. Let me then say it depends what the nature of support that they need. They could approach the Department of Agriculture. They might get certain advices at that level. But we also refer them to these agencies we have created, which we call the Agribusiness Development Agency. It is linked to the Department of Agriculture. It's a new agency that is there to actually handhold a lot of farmers. As I said earlier, we created it when we're trying to get the farmers, the small and emerging farmers, to actually begin to access market, and we certainly found that a lot of them were going under because of lack of technical support and lack of financing and so on. So what we do, we actually get the ADA to go and support the farm, and then they all even negotiate the payment, the terms of payment of the loan and so on, help them with technical support. We're going to be improving the resources to that agency next year, and the approach is to really help, what we have said to them, deal with the emerging and distressed farmers. And that's what they're going to be focusing on. They've done a lot on that group of farmers this year. So I would say to them, we have the Agribusiness Development Agency, largely in Maritzburg, but I'm sure if they went on the internet and they would find the numbers as easily, and that would be the way. The one that is talking about the coal, being in Ladysmith and Newcastle, there's a Department of Energy Affairs. There's an office in Newcastle. If they were to link with that office, they would take them through the process of application and licensing and so on and so on. They'll take them through that. We do have other structures like the finance institutions that would assist them, from Mitala to the rest of the other banks. They can get assistance.
All right.
But they can talk to us. There are also CEDA, small enterprise development agencies, that can give them some advice.
All right, so finance is one side of the equation. The other often is they don't know what to do, actually.
Yes.
The knowledge, the skills. Is the province helping?
That's why I'm talking about the technical support, because it's about advice, it's about technical activities that need to take place, soil analysis, planning and thinking of what crop are suitable and all of that. Interestingly, this province actually has an analysis, soil analysis in the entire province. In any part of the province, we can tell you what crop is suitable. Right. In any part, there's a huge mapping that's been done. So it's very easy for Agriculture Department to actually support them, or ADA to support them.
All right, let's go to our tables now. And as I said, if you could be as brief as possible, because we've got quite a number. Let's go to table number 14. I think that's Kylie Forrest. Table number 14.
Here we are. Dr. Mkhize, I just wanted to know, do you believe that KZN is doing enough to tackle the youth unemployment crisis specifically? Thank you.
Right, youth unemployment.
Yes. I think we can never say we are doing enough if we have still got a huge amount of youth unemployment. In some cases where we're talking about employment being just under 20%, but if you go into the area, you'll find that the youth contributes up to about 70% of the unemployment in that area. So I can't say we're doing enough. I've indicated that we're focusing on the area of going for FET colleges, very strongly. We're also saying learnerships and internships. We're also, that's part of why we're putting this Human Resource Development Council to actually get industry to help us to do a lot of taking. We actually are going to be opening up what we call youth academies. The first 2 sites have been identified, one in Umkhanyagude, one in Eshowe, that are going to be starting to take youth on a short 3-month course that deals with rehabilitation of youth that have already been into drugs, alcohol, and so on, and they're desperate, having lost hope, and turn them around and show them skills that they can focus on and help them as they get out. So these are some of the things that we do, but there are a whole host of other programs that we're dealing with. We talked earlier about youth ambassadors. Here we've got youth who must work as peer educators of other youth at the local level. We also are saying to them that they need to look at what is happening in government so that they are available to take those opportunities, even to work in the communities. Because there's a lot of growth that a young person gets through experience of working through the community. So I would say anyone who's got any suggestion on youth will take it.
Earlier you spoke about the Human Resources Development Center. Is that going to address partly this kind of issue? And how soon can we see that opening?
The first 2 are ready. They should be starting in the next, probably earliest in January, but they're doing some work now. We've actually sent some of the youth to go out and learn in some of the provinces what's being done there, so that they can come and help the youth. So in the next month, from October, some activities are starting, but in earnest, it's starting at the beginning of the year. I spoke about the bursaries, the support, financial support for students. We just had to do it because so many students had passed, and then they said they wanted to go to universities and colleges, and we actually had to help them. And so we did so without even budgeting for it. Now we are actually increasing that so that the youth must go out there. We've done quite a number of these programs. In some cases, we've actually got an institute which is on what we call Maths and Science in Moses Kotane Institute. We're taking youth who have not had access to Maths and Science, getting them converted so that they can follow the correct streams in universities. We've also had a program which we're working with the India Confederation of Indian Industries and NIIT Institute to actually train over 10,000 youths on ICT. Some of them have even sent to India, they've come back. We've also got other programs where we train youth and get them placed into employment. There's a program which we're doing with the Fitlile group, which is actually nearing 10,000 at this point. So we've got a number of these initiatives. We're saying we are ready to look at what is being offered.
Okay. Let's go to table number 6. Is that Brennan De Brain? NAFCOC?
Good morning, Mr. Premier. Thank you very much for taking our questions this morning. The question that we want to ask is here today is, firstly, we are from the leadership here of NAFCOC, National African Federated Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And we believe here that, we seem to be falling behind in terms of black economic empowerment. And we are calling for greater cooperation between your office and our leadership in terms of delivering to our members. Thank you, Mr. Premier.
Yes, I believe that NAFCOC is one organization that's got access to the smallest entrepreneurs in villages, in rural areas, in districts. And I also believe that there's a lot we can do in partnership with our Department of Economic Development in terms of training, in terms of sharing of opportunities, in terms of microfinancing opportunities. Right now, we're working on regionalizing microfinancing opportunities, and so we hope to work with such organizations as yourselves. I think what helps is when we know that we can sit with the leadership and look at how, in partnership, we can actually build. There are a number of chambers that we once the whole program is able to get onto the regions, would be very keen to work with. So even at that level, I think that it's an opportunity for partnership.
All right, table number 19, Harry Etheridge.
Thank you. Good morning. Dr. mkhize, my question, I'm from a company called Airships Africa. Are you aware of the development of heavy lift airships as a fast, efficient, environmentally friendly alternative to rail and road transportation?
Okay, so airships as another alternative to transporting goods other than rail, road, and sea, yeah? So you want them like these big Goodyear airship type scenarios. Aren't they a bit slow? Really, are they quite quick? All right, so he's saying, are you aware that you can shift cargo with airships?
Well, I'm not as aware as you might be. But let me say, when we talk from here and talk about intermodal transport, and we're saying air, ship, rail, road, we are saying those investors in any of these areas must actually, by choice, find that KwaZulu-Natal, Durban is the natural site where they can locate, because it's very easy to convert. Now, I believe that we should be sitting and talking to our Dubai trade port operators. And we would be very keen to hear that. Of interest to us is that we've got a lot of interest in cargo carriers that want to go into Central Africa, as far as Nairobi, Dar es Salaam, Harare, and so on. And we believe it's actually one of our selling points. So people of those kinds of industries should in fact be located around Durban. And so I would say let's have a discussion with Dubai Trade Port operators.
Okay, there we go. You might see lots of airships flying overhead soon. All right, let's go to table number 3. And I'm going to try and read your writing. Is it LN-M Baloy or Mabengu? You'll have to clear that up for us. Table number 3.
Good morning, Premier, and I'm pleased to be here. The first question is a comment. I wish to congratulate the Premier for having been the first Premier, obviously, and his executive for putting together the KZN or Provincial Planning Commission. And we're very proud and want to congratulate you on that one. And so the question, as a follow-up to that, the question is, what do you think has been the positive spillover? You know, it can only be positive on the other provinces, having been the lead province in setting up this commission, and obviously within the province itself. That's the first one. The second one is, as I was moving around in my development trips, I had a special love letter from one of the communities, and the question was just to remind the Premier about the road, you know, the upgrading of the road from Kranskop to Silujane. I think it's P1719 or something like that. And I thought I must take this opportunity to do that. Thank you, Premier.
Okay.
Now, you know, for a long time I never bothered reading the names of the district roads until I go to community meetings. People don't say we want a road to such a place. They say road such and such a number. It actually has forced me to take a lot of interest. And then my colleague who's doing transport was actually able to say to me, no, if anybody asks about the road, there must be a name of the road. And everybody is now very familiar with it. Now, fortunately for me, I can only convey that message to the MEC for Roads and Transport. and I can say to you that the MEC is right in the audience.
So we can get a response straight away. Where's the MEC?
You may
get a microphone here to the MEC.
Now, part of also what we do with our program of Operation Sukmasake, we get everything answered on the spot. So
there we go.
By the right and relevant person. And so is one on your left, my dear?
All right.
Yes,
MEC, if you could stand up,
MEC.
take the microphone, stand up. And you're wearing the right suit today.
No, Premier and your viewers, the question may be specific, but I think the answer is not going to be very specific. There is so much backlog in the rural areas on road reconstruction and construction. So much, it's unbelievable.
Why, sir?
Well, it's our historical development. It's been a neglected
18 years,
platform.
comrade.
Well, we can tell you. We can tell you. Can we just indicate to you, we have a budget for each district. Each district is covered. It has its own specific budget. It has its own specific plans. They are now worked with district municipalities and local municipalities. It's being done openly because we're satisfying every district. But the backlog is still there. The other important thing is the maintenance. Remember how much disaster. Roads are some of the very immediate casualties of any rain that comes and wreaks havoc. Therefore, it takes you back. You go back to rebuilding a road that you had built a few years ago. So it's somewhat what we all must plan together.
Would it help?
And be patient.
Would it help if the Premier doubles your budget so you can speed up the time?
I don't think it will still help because of the indications that I'm telling you about. Remember, we have even had to approach the national disaster, helped by the Portfolio Committee, to even fund backlogs as far back as 2008. Things that we have not as yet been able to reconstruct, and the budget is still there. The National Department is still assisting. In other words, doubling may not be a solution. Maybe if you go higher than doubling,
MEC.
we could go to, we can
MEC, okay, I wish you luck that your roads are fixed in time for your voters to drive to the election booths. All right.
Well, we've got a program. We've got a program.
Right.
It's open, and I'm sure we can share it at some stage with anybody else. Thank you very much.
But I can just say, Peter,
Yeah.
that having given the number, the MEC will follow the matter up and see what's happening. The point is making is correct. There was just one other question before. There has been a very positive spin-off in terms of how all of our plans and have been structured, and our plans have been aligned also with business. It's actually come out very, very well because there's been lots of consultation. But from National Planning Commission, they've actually come to us and says, initially they thought there was no need for Provincial Planning Commission, but now they actually want to suggest that other provinces could rather consider doing the same, because we think it helps to align. And in this case, I think it has only been positive.
All right, so we're going to go to table number 16. Now, I had said you can only ask one question, but you've got a powerful surname, so I'm going to let you do these two questions. Edward Zuma.
Good morning, Honorable Premier and guests. I also hope I'll get the answer on the spot. MEC for Transport, the simple solution to your department, your consultants have stayed far too long. They've become comfortable. They begin to use substandard equipment. That is why you rehabilitate a road every 3 years. Get rid of them. The question is, how long can a department survive with an acting HOD? As the Premier correctly put it, you can only focus at work if you know you are secured in your employment. However, these people are acting. They do not know whether they will be permanently employed or not. Hence, it stifles progress. So I would want to ask the Premier, how long will we have that department having an acting HOD? And in having clean governance, as we correctly put it, it has to be corrupt-free. I would straightly put this question to the Premier. The Manasseh report is out, and we are waiting for it. Because for the province to have clean governance, as the Premier correctly put it, people that are corrupt need to be punished. What has been done, because the report has been there for months now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so 2 issues. The first one, why is it that somebody could sit in an acting position for so long?
Yes. Well, it happens that if you send out applications and you have a challenge finding the suitable candidates, then the process gets prolonged. That's basically what happens. Quite often, the challenge has got to do with the fact that we are supposed to try and get a quota of 50-50. So sometimes you find a whole crop of male applicants, and therefore you are not able to continue appointing male heads of department because your distribution looks to be in conflict with the prescriptions. You should have at least very close to 50-50, and if you are actually continually appointing male heads of department, then you run into difficulty. A lot of the vacancies are actually held by that, and most of them have gone out again for adverts, and we expect that we should be getting the processes closed within October. But again, we hope we'll have the correct candidates in terms of the gender profile. We have actually reversed a number of, we have actually cancelled a number of processes where it was clear that the main applicants were male and were not getting female. That's really what happened. How long a department can survive? Basically, it does depend on the partnership between the acting and the rest of the team, because lots of work gets done by most of the people in there.
But
it's not desirable.
But the commitment of the person acting might not be as much as it could be, knowing that they're basically setting up the department for someone else.
Theoretically, yes, but we're not saying it's correct to actually have an acting. We're simply saying, we're explaining why it does happen. Yeah. The other issue is about
the report.
Yes, Manasa report. Now, I think we need to understand a few things. Firstly, when the issue of the suspicions in eThekwini arose, many people, particularly political parties, thought that the ANC was not going to act because it's the ANC in charge. When we acted, everybody was surprised. Then the report came. When we released it, people were surprised. It's now a bit of a difficult situation, because what actually happens is that when we release the report, it's not released just for publicity, it's released for action. On the first day, there were certain things that were supposed to be done. And in the process, all those things had been done. The municipality had to respond on certain issues. Some of the information had to go to the police, and some of the internal disciplinary processes had to start. One of the reasons why we normally don't release the report to the public is because we hand it over for investigations. Now, I said earlier to you that there have been instances where we had to withhold the disciplinary process inside government, simply because the police says, don't touch those people who are going to mess up with our case. So until the police say, listen, you can release this, we've got all the information, and all the individuals involved that we need to investigate have now been investigated, then we can do so. But it's in some cases, it's a bit of a bit of grandstanding when we say, look, the report is there, it's also with the police, there's action being done, and then somebody said, well, no, we want to get it to the public. In the public, if it does not compromise the investigation by the police, we've got no problem. But if it is going to compromise the police, I don't think we must rush to say, yes, we must release the thing, because we have actually given out what is in there.
Are we saying to Mr. Zuma that at the appropriate time, it will be fully transparent what was in the report and what's been done as a result of it?
It's actually transparent. It's not like people don't know what was in the report. They were given a summary of it, but the summary was to say there are these kinds of things, and there are these trends, there are these kinds of findings, and therefore there are these actions that are needed. Once the police say we're fine with the investigation, that's all right. We'll release them. There are many investigations which we would be very happy to just leave out there. But you do need to give people the chance to be investigated, to answer to the charges, and then once they are appearing, it's like in the police,
Yeah.
Police don't release anything until it appears in court. It's the same thing, because there's a process that lands up in court.
Right.
Now, otherwise, you create a sense of prejudice, and that's what we're avoiding.
All right, we're running out of time. We started talking about the leadership nomination process. There's a group apparently called the Forces of Change Lobby in the KZN that want you as the national chairperson of the ANC.
No, look, firstly, I don't recognize any title of any group. Every individual is free to have their point of view, and they don't need to be attached to a name or a group. And so I can't be expected to respond on behalf of any of those groupings. I don't know them. I've never heard of them. And if you read about some name of this or the other, it doesn't necessarily mean they exist. They are not a structure of the ANC.
Would you accept the nomination, national chairperson?
No. It doesn't work like that. It is the branches that nominate, and once they've nominated in the correct procedure, I will then be asked. At the moment, I can't jump to each and every gossip. There are many. You've heard the first one.
Yes.
There are hundreds of gossips out there. You must come to the ANC branches and hear these gossips. None of them are authentic.
Okay.
None until
in
the
20
branch.
seconds, is KZN behind President Zuma for re-election?
No, we'll wait for the nomination process. When the nomination process comes out, I hope the media will be as enthusiastic in covering whatever nomination processes as they are in covering all the negative criticism.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Dr. Zweli Mkhize.